AITA for being a Karen about my car being fixed. My car was shaking when I braked from high speeds. My dad told me it was the rotors and I believed him, but the deal I got the car from has free diagnostic, so I took it there. So my dad was right. It was the rotors. My friend had just done the brake pads like a month ago but not the rotors. So the dealer guy said it'll be $650 to get all 4 rotors shaved down and an oil change, synthetic oil, so oil change is like $90 itself. I said okay. He calls me like an hour later and says his guy started cutting the front rotors and it wasn't gonna work, so they needed to replace all 4 for $850. I asked if they cut the back ones yet and he said no. I specially said, do not cut the back ones, do as little as possible. He calls me again and says his guy cut a back rotor and it wasn't gonna work, so I needed to replace those 2 as it was too uneven now. I said I told you not to cut those, and he was like I was just trying to help you out. I'm fuming at this point. Go to pick up my car. It's $750 for the 2 front rotors and the oil change, when they had quoted me $850 for all 4 and the oil change. I pay and leave. My car is literally not drivable, it's so shaky. I bring it back and tell him the car is dangerous at this point and it needs to be fixed. We get into, and he's like, I'll do the back rotors for free labor, but it's $200 for the rotors. I tell him I'll get a lawyer cause I'm not giving him literally another penny. I paid $750 for a car that's worse than before. I ask for the manager and eventually they agree that it was their fuck up and they'll eat the back rotors. Pick the car up the next day and it's good. I told my parents and they said they are proud of me, but my one friend said I was a Karen. AITA? NTA. You specifically told them not to do something to your property and they did. They own the fuck up. They pay for the fix. As a business owner, I would immediately know that was my fault. The real Karen passing judgment is a Butinsky is your friend. Karen. Now it isn't just complaining that makes you a Karen. But saying someone shouldn't complain makes you a Karen too? That makes no sense. The whole Karen thing is a gross. NTA. If they did unauthorized work, that's on them. NTA. 110%. Your friend is though. Because you were not a Karen. You were given back an unsafe vehicle and were in the right to demand it be made safe with no extra cost because they screwed it up. In my opinion, you're only a Karen if you make a mountain out of molehill, so to speak. Them fucking up your car like that is genuinely a major and expensive problem, and I'd frankly be pissed if you didn't complain and make them fix it. NTA. No way is this on you. The dealership thought they could screw you over and you stood up for yourself. Your friend is a moron. I honestly felt like it was a bait and switch almost. I voiced this when I brought the car back and it was worse than before. And the guy said, if that's what you think, you can take your business elsewhere. I was like, after I gave you $750 worth of my business and you gave me an unsafe car back. And that's when I asked for a manager. NTA mechanics always try and rip me off on the big stuff I can't do at home. I started ordering my own parts online and bringing them to the mechanic, and it saves a lot. He offered that too. If I find a cheaper rotor somewhere I can bring them and he'll put them on. Nope. Sorry bud. So you gave them a work order. Then they tried to do work outside the work order. And you forced them to pay for basically vandalizing your car? NTA, but also not a Karen. You stood up for yourself when someone was trying to cheat you. I'm proud of you. Karen goes looking for trouble. Even causes it. It's not just anyone that talks to a manager or has a problem in general. NTA, what were you supposed to do? Drive around in an unsafe car? That they made unsafe? No, you made the right call. NTA. Once a shop, or really any vendor, does clearly unauthorized work and tries to get paid for it, it's time to stand up and not take it. As long as you didn't fly off the handle and threaten to tell all your friends or ruin their business, you're not a Karen. I agree with this except the last part. If they are legitimately trying to take advantage of you, there is nothing Karen about tell all your friends. They're a shady business performing illegal actions. You absolutely should put them on full blast. If they are gonna do that with just rotors, imagine the shit they'll pull on someone with powertrain issues. It's only Karen if you're just being a bitch. If you're being honest about their shady business practice, then you're just being a good person. NTA, great job standing up for the dealer. They thought they could talk some car lingo and get you to agree to getting unnecessary work done. But you knew enough to know they were messing with you. Any win against the dealer is most definitely not Karen territory. It's more like a victory against the man territory. NTA. NTA, it's pretty common for shops to take advantage of women. Plus the dealer is overpriced and not any better than an independent shop. Usually only the front brakes need to be done. The back brakes do almost nothing. The pads are tiny and don't wear as fast as the front. And the heat stress is much less, so they rarely warp. The oil change is overpriced. You could have bought your own synthetic at a parts store and brought it to Jiffy Lube. They jacked you for about $500 by doing unnecessary work and being overpriced. The fact that they didn't fix it the first time is a sign that they didn't test drive the vehicle after they fixed it. That's bad. Brakes are a matter of life and death, so a test drive should have been part of the service. And another red flag is that they apparently didn't measure the rotors before cutting them. There is a minimum thickness you can shave to, and it's not hard to measure the degree of warpage prior to cutting. But all that takes time. So they just cut all the rotors by default and find out afterwards if they took off too much, which will require you to buy new rotors. This sounds like a shop that is rushing and cutting corners. NTA. Had a similar situation a few months ago. Got my tires changed. Got in the car. Had a bunch of car alerts about tire pressure sensors not being installed correctly, etc. Was told that I just need to drive it about 10 miles and the alerts will go away. Well, they didn't. Took it back. They said that it wasn't their fault since I drove it. A call to their national office and they instantly asked me to bring the car back. Took the tires off. Realized that the sensors hadn't even been put back on. Lost story short. Be a Karen all you want when it comes to that sort of thing. NTA. But I would recommend that you take an evening course in motor vehicle maintenance from your local college. It saves you a mint in the long run. NTA. A lot of people pull this shit. If you have a friend or family member that works on cars, it's usually better to pay them to work on your car because they just do what you tell them to without doing all this extra shit. Yeah. I learned that. My friend who did the pads offered to the rotors, but he already refused payment for doing the pads and I just felt bad having him do those too. My dad also offered, but he's older and I get nervous he'll get hurt. I'm a little paranoid lol. NTA. They tried to take advantage of you and you stood your ground. That is not what being a Karen is. NTA. You're a Karen for getting your car actually fixed at the place you took it to get fixed at? Please. NTA. I'd say Karen is reserved for unreasonable customers. Like buying an ice cream cake in the middle of July and then calling to complain and demanding a refund because the cake melted in the car on the drive home because you decided to buy an ice cream cake over an hour from where you live. God, I hated working at an ice cream store lol. I love this comment Mayo. I'm glad you don't have to work there anymore. NTA and NTK, not the Karen. You asked for a service to be done and called out a shady business practice. You weren't someone complaining for the sake of complaining or getting free product. I feel like a new sub is about to be born. AITK. NTA, you're protecting yourself from being taken advantage of. That shop was trying to take advantage of you because they figured you'd be an easy target. That's exactly what my dad said. NTA. You need to ask around and find a good mechanic. The only reason you should ever be taking your car to the dealership is to get work done under warranty or under recall. They were right in that you probably did need new rotors on the car. But $750 for 2 rotors and an oil change is rip-off prices. NTA. They're fucking you about. Why would they skim the discs? It'd be cheaper and quicker just to replace the front pads and discs, and that would solve your problem. They're either incompetent or ripping you off. Edit. And why were they gonna do an oil change? You went in with warped discs. I did need an oil change. NTA and NTK. I hate the whole Karen thing anyway. A woman advocating for herself/asserting herself is always going to piss off some people. It doesn't make you a Karen or a bitch or whatever. And even if it does, so what? This shop thought they would put a fast one on you. Probably because you are a woman. And you called them out on it. Never take a car there again. Karen is not merely assertive and standing up for herself. Karen is the kind of person who lets her kids rummage around in the belongings of someone else. Repeatedly. Doing nothing to stop their behavior, including removing the belongings from the room when the owner says that she can. And then files a lawsuit because her shitty kids experienced some mild discomfort from a TENS unit. That's a Karen. Not someone who objects to shady dealerships breaking parts of their car they didn't have on a work order. NTA. Sounds like the tech misdiagnosed the front rotors being warped, but it was really the rear. Easy mistake to make, BTW. Rear rotors don't warp very often. He tried covering his ass by starting to cut the rear to fix the problem for free after his test drive, after doing the fronts. After resurfacing the rear rotors, he probably found they were now not in spec and needed to be replaced. Shop should have ate the cost right away without trying to sell you rear rotors. I bet the service writer ended up eating the cost of the rotors from his paycheck, hence why they tried selling you it when it clearly was the shop's problem. The politics of shops is quite ridiculous. Good on you for not accepting their bullshit. Remember to be civil. HTTPS link and cut it out with the insults please. This rule applies to everyone mentioned in the post as well. Message the mods. HTTPS link if you have any questions or concerns. If you enjoyed this video, then hit the like button and subscribe if you'd like to see more future videos.